So let's talk about our first cluster of styles: realism, impressionism, and surrealism. And this is when picture books decide how much reality to include. Because, let's face it, picture books are weird. Some look like they belong in an art museum with stunningly detailed, hyper realistic images that make you question why you never got past stick figures. Yet, some look like someone painted them while running past the canvas at full speed, where it's less about precise details and more about vibes. And some look like they crawled straight out of a dream, or possibly a fever-induced hallucination. Hey everyone, I'm Nick. This is Dr. Cranky Pants Reads, and today we're talking about realism, impressionism, and surrealism in picture books. First up, realism. The wow, I can't even draw a straight line style. Realism is what happens when illustrators decide they want to painstakingly recreate reality down to every tiny detail, fold of fabric, and flicker of light. These books feel like you could step right into the scene if, you weren't in your pajamas eating cereal straight from the box. Let's look at Chris Van Allsburg's The Widow's Broom. Van Allsburg's illustrations are so precise, so richly detailed, you might almost feel like the broom might actually start sweeping your floor. Now, when you're looking for realism in picture books, you want to keep an eye out for everything being in proportion. There's not going to be any wacky size heads or oddly shaped hands. Just well-balanced, anatomically correct humans, animals, and objects. Additionally, look for detailed shading and lighting. If the fabric folds in a way that makes you jealous of your own lack of artistic ability, chances are it's realism. Also, if it feels like it could be a still from a historical documentary, if you could replace the words with a narration by David Attenborough, the realism is at play. Illustrators love realism because it creates a sense of trust and believability, great for historical fiction or other serious topics, and allows readers to study every tiny detail, which is really great for books that rely on close observation. It makes adults say, wow, I can't even draw a straight line, which I would imagine is probably very satisfying for the illustrator. Now, let's move into impressionism, or when a book decides that vibes matter more than details. Impressionism asks, do we need to see every detail, or can we just suggest some things and let the brain fill in the gaps? Now, these books feel soft. They feel fluid and atmospheric. They're more about color, light, and movement than perfectly drawn details. So let's look at one of my favorite picture books, Grandfather's Journey by Alan Say. Say's illustrations feel gentle and nostalgic, kind of like a memory that's slightly blurry around the edges, but still emotionally vivid. If you're trying to spot impressionism in a picture book, there's a couple of things you can look for. Loose, visible brushstrokes. If you can see where paint was applied and it doesn't look perfectly blended, that's impressionism. Dappled lighting and soft edges instead of crisp lines make things feel hazy or in motion. And a focus on mood over precision, where the details are there, but they're not the star of the show. Illustrators love it because it captures fleeting moments, perfect for books that want to feel nostalgic or poetic. It suggests emotion through light and color rather than facial expressions alone, and it makes books feel like memories rather than static images. If a book feels like it was painted during the golden hour of a perfect summer day, Impressionism's probably at work. Now, let's talk about surrealism, or when picture books enter the dream realm. So, realism wants things to look real, and impressionism wants things to feel real. But surrealism? Surrealism wants you to question reality entirely. These books bend the believable with the impossible, creating images that make sense until you take a second look and realize They absolutely do not. For an example, let's look at Flotsam by David Weisner. A kid finds an old camera washed up on a beach, develops the film, and discovers the images of tiny underwater civilizations, octopuses reading books, and other deep sea weirdness. Now, spotting surrealism in picture books involves realistic details, but really with impossible things happening. The lighting, the shading, and the proportions look normal, but then why is a cloud shaped like a cat? Why is a fish riding a bicycle? Also, there's typically dreamlike or symbolic elements, things that feel out of place but not wrong, just strange in a way you can't quite explain. Visual tricks and surprises are often common. If you have to double check a page because you thought you saw something normal, then realized it wasn't, it's probably surrealism. Illustrators love surrealism because it makes books feel playful, strange, as well as a little magical. It encourages kids to think outside the box, or outside of logic itself, really, and lets artists bend reality however they want. Because why not? If a book looks normal until you realize that snail is actually driving a tiny submarine, surrealism is behind it. Now, there's a couple of different ways to tell these styles apart in picture books, because you could be flipping through a book and you want to figure out what style it's actually using. Here's the thought process. 1, does it look like a historical painting with absurd amounts of detail? That's realism. Does it feel like a fleeting memory, soft and full of movement? That's Impressionism. And does it make you question whether you're awake or trapped in a dream? That one is Surrealism. Either way, you're looking at a book that uses art style to shape how you experience the story. In this video, we've talked about styles that play with reality. But now let's dive into some of the ones that ditch reality altogether. We're going to talk about Expressionism, abstract, and non-objective art. And in the meantime, let's talk. Do you prefer hyper-detailed realism, soft impressionism, or absolute surrealist weirdness? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's discuss. See you in the next one.